Welcome to Markets Today. It's Monday, 9th of November, the beginning of the second trading week of the month of November here in Nairobi. My name is Mbitha Mwema and I am your host for the day on this show, Markets Today. We will start off with a recap of what was happening last week on the NSE. After that, I'll give you a precursor of the results that were filed earlier today. Safaricom, Kenya's largest telco as well as largest company by market capitalization on the NSE, announced its half-year results. I will be giving you an overview of what these results are, but also inviting you to join us tomorrow as we take a deep dive on the same set of numbers. Thereafter, when we take the break and come back, we will be looking at the month of October. What was happening to investor sentiment? What were the key trades that went through? And what should we be looking out for as we are getting to the tail end of the year? That's a conversation that we will be having with Stella Wambugu, who is a Senior Equities Associate at Standard Investment Bank. We'd like to invite you to join our conversation today. You know why? Because Safaricom has announced that you either own a share or know somebody who owns a share. Perhaps it's your mother, perhaps it's your father, perhaps it's a sibling. You must know at least one person who owns that particular share. And if not, you are a consumer of the product. What did you think of the numbers? Did you even hear about the numbers? What would you like to know? Our SMS line is 20146. Please reach out to us. Tell us your name, where you're watching from, and did you hear about the Safaricom results? If no, let us know. We will share this with you. If you did hear about them, what did you think about those results? Without further ado, let's take a look at what was happening last week on the NSE. So I have the chart there behind me giving you an overview of turnover for the first week of November. Starting out on the 1st all through the way to the 6th of November, there was a bit of a muted activity at the beginning of the week, but then there was a huge jump on the 5th of November with turnover getting to over 1 billion shillings in terms of value. Comparing that week to the last week of October, we saw turnover nearly double. It was up 86 percentage points to close the week at 3.1 billion shillings. We did see a mixture in terms of investor sentiment. Mostly, we saw sell-offs out of some of the blue chip companies such as Equity and KCB, and a bit of sell-off especially on Bank of Kigali by the foreigners. Other than that, we did see some huge trades go through the banks such as KCB with a bit of foreign interest there. One of the days it did trade 18 million shares. That's basically what was happening over the week. Looking at Friday, the last trading day of last week, let's take a look at who the gainers were as well as who the losers were over that particular day. Top gainers on Friday, small caps dominating there. Olympia Capital up 12.8 percentage points, Uchumi up 7.14 percentage points, Kabasid gained 5 percentage points, whereas Stanbic and Sanlam both gained 3.9 and 3.66 percentage points respectively. Let's take a look at who the top losers for the day were. East African Cables was down 11.95%. We also had Kenya Re down 10.2%, Sasini and the Crown Paints, mostly the small caps. Now, the key news that is defining markets today is Safaricom. Safaricom earlier today announced its half-year 21 numbers. These numbers were down 6 percentage points to 33 billion shillings. That's the profit after tax. This compared to the previous period, the company had reported 35.2 billion in terms of profits after tax. What was happening with these particular numbers? Let's take a gloss over in terms of what was happening with the numbers to understand what primarily was the driver for the lower performance. As you can see there, turnover was down 4.8 percentage points, largely owing to a drop in M-Pesa numbers. M-Pesa for the period was down 14.5%. What happened is that in this particular period, the country had called the COVID-19 pandemic a national disaster. Following this, the Central Bank of Kenya came up with regulations that barred the transactions of 1,000 shillings and below being charged any transfer fees. The majority of transactions that Safaricom facilitated over the last 6 months were primarily in this particular bracket. Without the opportunity to charge, we did see a material fall in the M-Pesa earnings. M-Pesa has been the key driver for this company over the last couple of years into the medium term. It's always been contributing double-digit numbers. As at the last reported numbers for March 2020, that was the full year numbers, M-Pesa had contributed 18.2% growth. Half-year numbers, M-Pesa is down 14.5%, which has culminated in an overall 6% decline to this company's earnings. Tomorrow, we will be sitting down with an analyst, that's Tracy Kivunyu-Mose, to unpack these numbers. We are also reaching out to management to see if they can be with us tomorrow virtually to also help us understand what is going on. Apart from that, we did have a media briefing with them earlier in the morning, just to get a sense of what was expected. Now, the key thing for you to consider as an investor is you get paid out of the earnings. The company still will maintain its 80% payout ratio, meaning that you will still get a dividend in as much as they were not able to generate cash during this period. This dividend will certainly be much lower than last year because the guidance that they have given, especially when it comes to the earnings before interest and tax, is 7 to 10 percentage points lower than last year. This, you can actually use it as a read-through for the profit after tax, meaning that your dividend as a shareholder will be lower. The share had climbed to 31.3 shillings per share last week on Friday. Not too much traction has actually happened in terms of price. Today, as we came to the show, it was at 31 shillings per share. We expect to see a bit of price correction, not primarily driven by the results that have come, but primarily driven by the fact that this counter moved all the way from about 26 in August, has rallied to 31.3, giving an opportunity for some of these investors to take profit. What more would you like to know when it comes to Safaricom? We would like to hear your questions. Were you expecting these numbers? At least from a market perspective, it was an expectation of maybe 0 to about 3 percentage point growth. So certainly the negative number is not good. But I think the underlying factors to look out for, or rather the silver lining, is the fact that there was massive growth in terms of the transactions of M-Pesa that were generated over those 6 months. Meaning, should the Central Bank of Kenya review the guidelines of charging transactions of 1,000 shilling and less, there could be a possibility for a regeneration of earnings growth, at least over the short to the medium term. For this and more, I hope you can join us tomorrow to unpack these numbers. For today, we want to look at where are we at when we are looking at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. October has come and gone, and we did see a bit of a sell-off from the foreigners. We want to understand what were the key activities happening on the NSE in October, and how does this define sentiment as we get into November and also get into the tail end of the year. Ms. Stella Wambugu is a Senior Equities Associate at Standard Investment Bank. She will be taking us through their monthly report to help us understand what is happening in equities and also give us a glimpse of what she is seeing on the desk, as well as what to expect going forward. See you after the break for this and more.